Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Center for Spiritual Living Victoria Online. I'm coming to you today from my home office because rather than speaking at my center this morning, I was actually guest speaking somewhere else. So I thought I would still record a talk and put one up so that there's one there for this week. So welcome. It's good to have you here. I'm happy to have you back if you've been here before. And if ever you want to drop in person to our center, it's at 380 Cook Street in the Cook Street Village Activity Center, Sundays 10:30 for meditation and 11 o'clock for a celebration service. We would love to see you there in person and to welcome you for coffee afterward and for a good chat. It's a friendly, welcoming, loving place, and we'd love to see you there. So my talk today was called The Path of Least Resistance. And basically, we make things so difficult for ourselves when we don't have to. And I was remembering in the book of Genesis and in the Bible, very early on, near the beginning of the Bible, it said that God created Adam out of dust, the dirt of the earth, and breathed life into his nostrils, the breath of life into his nostrils. And I was thinking about that today because it reminded me of a silly joke that I read years ago. There was a group of scientists sitting around, and they were talking about all of their amazing accomplishments. Just things were more magnificent day by day with all of the things that they were doing. And one of the scientists said to the others, I think it's time that we tell God we don't need him anymore. And so they pondered it, they discussed it, and they said, we really don't. We've got control of everything ourselves now. So they appointed one of the scientists in their midst to go and speak to God and to let God know just what was going on. So one of them did go and met with God, and God invited him to come and have tea. I think it was angel water tea from the Silk Roads in Victoria. Just such a wonderful tea. And of course, gluten-free cookies. That would always be the case. So they were sitting having tea and munching on cookies, and God asked the scientist why he was there. And he said, well, my friends and I have been talking, and we think that we really have control of everything now, and we don't need you anymore. And we thought maybe you'd just like to retire. Take time off and do some traveling. Just release all of your responsibilities. Go and have a good time. Play some golf, play pickleball. Um, Maybe you want to guest speak once in a while at the Center for Spiritual Living in Victoria. But really, just take it easy, God. You've been around for eons and eons of time, and we just don't need you anymore. So God stroked his beard and thought about this, and finally he said, well, on one condition. He said, we need to have a little competition. And the scientist said, of course, anything you want. And God said, okay. He said, that I created man out of dust, out of the dirt on the earth, the soil that you're standing on when you're on the earth. And the scientist said, oh, yes, I know that. And he said, and God said, well, okay, then I want to see you do that. And if you can do that, then I'll retire. I'll just go and take a long, long holiday, get a big rest. And the scientist said, well, of course, that's easy. And the scientist bent down and took a handful of dust. And God said, get your own dirt. I love that story. I just love it because, we get so full of ourselves sometimes, and we think we can do everything on our own. And when we do that, we're not taking the path of least resistance. We're making it difficult for ourselves. We're struggling. And so what we need to do is to really, really consider, are we leaving God out? Are we doing that a lot? I'm fond of saying we step aside from God, but God never steps aside from us. God is always there. It's in, as, and through us. We were birthed with it. We were birthed as it. This power and presence is always in us. And it's a power for good, and we get to use it. And the thing is, whether we know it or not, we're using it all the time. I mean, we may have stepped away from thinking about God, from having faith, from using this power within consciously, but God has never stepped away from us. And, that's the good news and the bad news. Because when we're consciously creating, by that I mean we hold a mental image of what it is that we want to create in our lives, and that remains our focus. We don't take our eyes off that. We don't take our minds off that. We don't say, oh, it hasn't happened yet, must not be working. Maybe this dirt I've got isn't any good. That's not the way it is at all. It's a matter of keeping focused on whatever it is that we want to create. Because as soon as we say it isn't happening, then we're creating that it isn't happening. We're creating lack and limitation until we start remaining singularly focused on what it is that we want. So think about that. What is it that you want? This power is in you, it's in me. We get to just awaken to it, to allow it to work through us, instead of struggling, instead of trying to compete with God, knowing that this power and presence is in us. So what is it that's ours to do? What's ours to do is to live on purpose with that power. We get to use it. We're never separate from it. Why struggle? Why struggle when we don't have to? When there's an easier way? Do we lack faith? Do we lack courage? Are we fearful that it might not work? Because if we're fearful that it might not work, then we're putting our focus on it might not work. And guess what? It might not work. And so there's a wonderful expression that I heard many, many years ago. The price you pay for the life you want is the life you have. Run that over in your mind again. The price you pay for the life you want is the life you have. In other words, you have to give up all of the pain and suffering and struggle right here and right now, all of the challenges, in order to have the life you want. You can't say, well, I'm living here in pain and agony and struggle, and life is just a challenge. Life is always a struggle. You can't be sitting here thinking that and then thinking, but I'm changing it now. It isn't changing until we release that, until we let it go. Let go of the life we have. Release it. Now, change can be pretty scary. It's something we don't, as humans, we don't deal with change very well. And I remember years ago, I always had taped to my computer change about change, because it comes from within. It always comes from within. And so I can change nothing or no one but myself. And when I change, everything changes. So I have to change. I have to give up the old stuff. I have to give up the struggle. I have to give up the challenges and let God do it. Einstein said that the definition of insanity is to do the same things today as we did yesterday and expect a different result. It's the same thing. If we're going to think the same way that we thought yesterday and expecting something to be different today, it isn't going to happen. We're the ones who have to make those changes. And are we going to go forward in faith, or are we going to sit back kind of stuck and wallowing in self-pity, saying, oh, woe is me. My mother always loved my brother better than me. Everybody else had better opportunities than I had. I just had to fight for everything that I ever achieved or anything that I ever wanted. Are we into that poor me place? Or are we into a place where we're just ready to let it go? Say, wow, God is going to give me the dirt. God is the substance, and it's right here within me, and I get to use it. And I'm going to use it, by golly. I'm going to use it right now. The thing is that we have all the dirt we need. We have all the power that we need. I think it was Lynn McTaggart wrote um, that that when three people are together, that there is enough energy among them to boil all the oceans of the world. Imagine that. Three of us together have the power to boil all the oceans on the earth. Good thing that we don't know how to use it. Good thing that we haven't succeeded with that yet. But the thing is, we diminish ourselves. We think we don't have that power, or we think somebody else has more than we do. That's just not so. You know, Jesus had no more of this power than you have. Mother Teresa didn't have any more than you have. You know, you are born a spark of God stuff. You've got all of it right here inside of you. And the thing is that we don't know how to turn that power on. We just get so stuck in old ideas and old thoughts and ideas that life has to be a struggle. And it's just not so. You know, think of it as electricity, metaphorically. You don't have to have an engineering degree to understand electricity or how it works. All you need to know is to flip the switch or to plug the plug into the inlet. It's the same thing with God. We don't need a degree to know how to use this power. It's there always. We simply direct it, and we direct it with our positive thoughts, with great ideas, with wonderful ideas. And as we do, you know, just like the light switch, we're flipping on this power, this energy, this intelligence that is always there. So it's really about us having the same faith that we have about flipping a light switch. We're pretty sure that light is going to come on unless the bulb is burned out. We're pretty certain that whatever the appliance is going to work when we plug in the plug into the outlet in the wall. We need to embrace that same certainty in our lives, that same certainty with God. So, what is it that keeps us struggling? You know, what are we waiting for? Are we waiting for our mothers to love us more? Are we waiting to feel smarter, to feel younger, to feel older, to feel more self-assured, to feel like we're enough? You know, we could be sitting there in our 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, 100, and still waiting for those things. And the thing is, they're not going to come to us. We're looking for something outside ourselves to bring us that power. We're looking for something outside ourselves to make our lives better, to make us feel better about ourselves. And what we need to do is forget all of that stuff and know that we're good enough. We're born individualized expressions of God. Think about that. In no way are we smaller than anybody else, less than anybody else. We have everything within us to just go forward and to create happiness in our lives. And what we need to do is order up. You know, I say that when, see somebody who has something that you want. It may be great self-assurance. It may be that the person is very charismatic. It may be that they have a very successful life, that they have money, that they have a beautiful relationship, whatever it might be. Something that you want. You know, what I've learned to do is to look at that and say, I'll have some of that. Thank you. You know, instead of, I wish I had that. You know, that poor sod is so lucky, has everything going for him or her. You know, what about me? Poor me, woe is me. You know, a friend of mine says, it's like you have Velcro stuck to your forehead. You know, going around all the time saying, oh, I just wish I had this. You know, and that's not the way it is at all. Order up. You know, imagine yourself going through a food drive-through, Let's say it's McDonald's, and you get to the window to place your order, or to the place where you place your order, and the person on the line says, may I help you, please? What would you like? And you just sit there, and you don't say anything. And the person says, are you there? Um, the sensor here indicates your car is there. What is it that you'd like today? What would you like to order? And you're just sitting there kind of going, oh, you're not paying any attention to what's being asked of you. And finally, the person who is taking orders just says, look, move along, move along. There are people behind you. And so you move your car forward and you move out, and you're hungry. You're hungry because you didn't order up. Well, that's what it's like with our lives. We're hungry because we don't order up. We are missing things in our lives. We're feeling lack in our lives because we don't order up. Because we're not specific with God about what it is we want. And we're not allowing this power to have its way with us. Just think about that. Think about this amazing presence and what it can do for us and with us in our lives. But we continue to struggle. Another way of looking at it is, you have a GPS in your car, or you use Siri on your phone, or whatever you happen to use to get you to the place that you want to be. So imagine that you're going to take a road trip with a friend, and you get in your car, and let's say you're here in Victoria, and you decide that you're going to make a trip to California, to San Diego. Nice place to go. And you're imagining all the things you're going to do there. You're going to swim in the ocean. You're going to go to the amazing aquarium. You're going to just enjoy that sunshine, that beautiful air. And so you get in the car, and you've got a friend with you, and you've got this lovely new car, convertible, top is down, and you're driving along, and you've been on the ferry, and now you're on the road going into the U.S., and you're having such a good time. You're playing all the music on your playlist, and you and your friend are singing, and you're going along just thinking about how wonderful it's going to be to get to San Diego. And then you stop talking about San Diego, and you just are talking to one another about whatever, talking about how, you've never been able to go there before, and you're just hoping it's going to be a good trip and so on. And you keep talking, and then all of a sudden you're driving through Houston, and you don't stop, you keep on going, and then you're in New Orleans, and you look at one another and say, well, this doesn't look much like San Diego. The thing is, you haven't been following your map. You haven't been following the road map. You haven't been following your GPS. You haven't turned on your GPS. I like to call it my God positioning, um, my God positioning service. It's, it is that simple, and it's that complicated. We get distracted by other things. We know we want to go to one place, or we want to manifest something in our lives, but our minds drift off to other places. We have to follow the roadmap. And to follow the roadmap, or the GPS, means, first of all, we have to create that map. We have to turn on the GPS, that God positioning system that is within us, our intuition. And we have to order up exactly what it is we want and create that map of how to get there. We're holding the vision, and then we imagine, what does it look like? What does it taste like? What does it feel like? What does it smell like? Is there a sound to it? Allow all of your senses to just drink in that wonderful idea of what it is that you want to create in your life. And don't slip back to the next day saying, oh, well, it hasn't happened yet, haven't got it. Keep your eye on the vision and have faith and know that everything is in process. It is happening in the invisible. You've planted the seed there, and the seed is now starting to grow. Nurture it. Don't poison it with challenging thoughts. Make it easy on yourself. And if you're feeling stuck, remind yourself to let go of the challenges. Let go and let God, I like to say. One of the things that I tell the students in my practitioner class is to take a notebook or just even a single piece of paper and fold it down the middle. And on one side, put my to-do list. And then write down the things that I need to accomplish or want to accomplish. And on the right side of the page, put for God to do. And write down the things that I think are too difficult. The thing is, all I need to do is know the what. I don't need to know the how. Leave the how up to God. And before I ever got into this faith, before I ever got into this religion that is called Science of Mind, I was using this without even knowing it. I had a very high-powered job for 17 years, took me all around the world, and culminated in a week-long festival, media festival, once a year. And my to-do list was very, very long. It was before the days of email, and so I was on the telephone all day with different parts of the world, because of the difference in time zones. And so I would have this list of things that I needed to do. As everything came up, I would just write it down. But I wouldn't get to these things during the day because I would be so busy on the phone. And at the end of the week on a Friday, I would take a look, and I may have talked about this before. In fact, I think I even referenced it last week. I would look at my book, and I would then record all of the things that I needed to carry forward into Monday. And I would always be surprised that so many things were done. And I would think, how did that possibly happen when I didn't have the time? But what happened was that there was a higher power at work. And the example that I used, I think, is that, I wanted the head of Sony in Japan to come to the festival, which was in Banff, Alberta. And I wanted him and his crew to bring high-definition television to the festival and to demonstrate it. And in those days, HDTV took up an entire wall. It was massive to move. It cost more than $100,000 to move it. And I wanted Sony to donate this and to send their technicians and to demonstrate it. Well, I got to the end of 1 week, and that had been on my list. And I looked at it, and I thought, oh, the head of Sony of Japan called me and asked if they could demonstrate HDTV at the festival that year. And of course, I said yes. And I got off the phone and just said, thank you. And as I went through my list, I'd find one by one that, whoever I needed to do something, to provide something to our festival. When I got to the end of the week, almost all of those things were done because those people called me. I mean, that is God in action. When I was thinking I was going to phone the head of Sony of Japan, I didn't know how we were going to get that equipment to us, especially since I knew it was going to cost at least $100,000, and it was going to take all of those technical people. But I was going to find a sponsor for it if I could. Well, I didn't have to. It's about the path of least resistance. Write it down. Write down what is God's to do, and then get out of the way and let God do it. Do the things that you can do. Let God take care of the rest. Just release and let go, and let God. It is so simple, and at the same time, it sounds so complicated. And what we need to remember is, we might be frightened. We might think that things can't happen or won't happen for us. But the safest place we probably ever were was in the womb. And if we stayed in the womb, we would have died because the womb would have become toxic. But there's possibly some memory, some desire to be in that safe place. Well, just know that safe place is in the womb of God. That's where we live, move, and have our being. And it's always, always with us. We are powerful beyond measure. I tell you this today with everything that's in me. We are powerful beyond measure. Believe it. Have faith. Know that as long as we're positive, as long as we hold every possibility in our minds, as long as we know that we are pure potential in existence, things are going to start happening for us in an easier way. You know, Edison talked about, and I think I mentioned this last week, talked about, we can do it with, well, he said it would, that anything that we wanted to do, that we wanted to create, would be 1% inspiration and 99% perspiration. And I say no. It's 99% inspiration and 1% perspiration when we let God do it. Just remember, you have everything that you need. Through God, all things are possible. That's ancient wisdom that has been in many, many books in recent years, in contemporary writings. Remember that. With God, all things are possible. And we don't have to go anywhere to find it. It is right here within us all. We have it right here. So let us take the path of least resistance with whatever it is we're doing. Make a choice. We don't have to make our own dirt. The spiritual dirt, the spiritual stuff of which everything is made, is within us. I say to you right here and right now again, let go and let God. Life works. It absolutely works when we believe. When we believe, it comes into being. You are a precious child of God, and the universe is crazy about you. Give up the struggle and take the path of least resistance now. And so it is. Thanks for being here with me today. I look forward to seeing you again. And if you want to get in touch, you can email me at revcarrie, that's REVCARRIE, at cslvictoria.org. And I'm happy to respond to any questions that you might have. Anyway, pleasure to see you today. Hope you're back again, or that you drop in person. It would be wonderful to see you. Have a great, wonderful week, and so it is.